Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to be talking about how the arms, hands, wrists work to get you that shaft lean and finally fix your flip at impact. And really something I think a lot of people don't look at that can be the reason why you're never able to fix that shaft lean. And in today's video, you're going to see Mr. Steve Saraki with me. Steve coaches out of Woodcrest Country Club in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Awesome coach. And he and I coach together at CogornoGolf.com. That's where we can work together, you and I, regardless of where you are in the world. You could send us in your swings. We can build you a specific practice plan. You get access to all of our master classes, everything we have, which is everything you need to really take your game to the next level, regardless of what you're looking to do, break 100, break 90, etc. We'd love to see you at CogornoGolf.com. We'll put a link for that down below, but let's get started with the video. All right, Steve, so let's talk through here a couple pieces, specifically the elbows, the distance between the elbows, and then the chain reaction that has on a lot of other pieces. I think one thing that we see a lot that a lot of people might not put two and two together.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right, is the distance between the elbows, how that affects the wrist angles, and how that all plays into hitting the ball more solid, shaft lean, no flip, etc.
Right, yeah, so I would say most people that when they set up, it kind of can begin at the setup a little bit, that they might have their arms, a little bit too far apart. Like we've talked about in the past, we always want to have the elbows close together, like the pockets of our arms are facing outwards.
Yep.
That helps, keep the hands closer together and a little bit of grip work.
And even when you do that, just to really simplify this, and we're saying elbows closer, we're kind of just measuring from here to here.
Yes.
And then when your elbows, do it the wrong way again, Steve. Obviously, when you do that, that distance gets wider.
And the arms start bending.
And the arms bend. And when the arms are straighter and the elbows are more.
Yeah, so we'll say like a rough estimate, approximately say 8 to 10 inches apart is what we would want the elbows to be.
To start, right?
Yeah, to start.
Okay.
And we kind of are trying to keep them the 8 to 10 back and through the swing.
And let's even, I don't mean to interrupt you twice right here,
good.
but let's pause even there and say, right there as like a statement for someone who may be even newer to the game, who has no idea what that means.
Yeah.
Is like the general concept of this distance that we preset at setup.
Yep.
The best we can maintain that or keep the elbows closer during the backswing, through impact and the follow through,
right.
Better chance of striking the ball better, playing better golf.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, there's a host of things that's going to help.
Yeah.
But hitting the ball solid to be at the top of that list.
Yeah. Now, Steve, as you work through with the elbows on the way back and down, and
yeah, so what we would see, poorly is that, they'd have their arms too far apart. When the golfer would start to swing back, say they had them 10 inches apart, they might start going back and it would go 11, 12, 13. As they swing back and the elbows start pulling apart, the wrist already starts uncocking, and that's like the beginning of the cast and having the handle location too far back at impact.
And then as you see that up to the top and working down an impact, when the elbows stay close together, what does that allow us to do with the wrist angles and the shaft?
Right, so when we would go back, we'd say, keep the elbows close together. When we would go back, same distance that they were at the setup to the top. And as we would come down, we would keep the elbows like the same distance. So now when I'm at shaft parallel to the ground, you can see how there's an angle between my left arm and the shaft. Where the poorest players would have their arms pulled apart, and that would start unhinging the wrist, making the bottom of the swing too far behind the ball.
Yeah. And so if we, let's do the good version there again.
Yeah, sure.
And so we get down to P6. So the angle between the lead arm and the shaft, let's start with there is an angle.
Yes.
Right? And that angle's not completely let out. And as this arm starts to get farther and farther and farther and farther from this arm, this trail wrist extension changes, the club starts to unhinge.
It's the casting, like that's the beginning of the casting.
Yeah, cast flip, no shaft lean impact with that.
Low point behind the ball.
And so a lot of people who maybe get an impact look where they have the shaft leaning back, they have a flip, like, hey, Eric, I can't get my hands forward. I can't get shaft lean. I've been flipping forever. My club face is okay, They might need to start with, right?
I would start with, elbows close together at the setup, tight.
Yep.
And then as I go back, the distance that I have at the setup, we said is at 8 to 10. I'd keep them 8 to 10 inches at the top.
Yep.
And that would help have more wrist cock, facilitate the wrist cock.
Yep.
And then as I'm coming down, they would keep the elbows the same distance, keep squeezing the elbows, and that's going to help keep the handle more forward to have the shaft leaning forward at impact, get more compression on the golf ball, bottom of the swing more forward.
And so let's say someone wants to work in that. They say, hey, okay, I see my elbows are getting farther apart on the way down,
Yep.
et cetera, and I want to begin that, even just from a feel perspective.
Yeah, like how to practice this?
Yeah, what would they feel? How would they
So
start?
what I would be, if they're filming, which everyone now can film because they have a phone.
Yeah.
What I'd be doing is I'd go back to where my left arm's parallel to the ground, and I would make sure my elbows are close together. And what you would do is, as you're filming from the front view, you would see that as your left arm's parallel to the ground, it should almost look like there's one arm, or you might see like the tip of your right elbow below your left.
From here, okay, gotcha.
From here.
Yep.
Whereas the poorer players would have the club uncocked, the right elbow above, and you see big space in between.
Yes.
So how I would practice this is I would go back, I'd have my elbows close together, nice wrist cock, and then I would just turn through and just touch the ball out there, just to get the feel of having the elbows close and the handle more forward. That's how I begin to practice that.
And someone who's filming it, so let's say the trail arm and the lead arm kind of in one line on the way back.
Yep.
And then maybe trail arm underneath left arm.
Yeah, as long as it's parallel.
You're okay.
You're okay. As long as you can't see a big gap or where the right arm's above the left.
Yeah, during the downswing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Backswing or downswing.
And then as they're working in, if someone has typically had the elbow, let's even say they're okay at address, which I know may be given too much credit, and probably a lot of it comes back to that.
Yep.
And the trail arm starts to get a lot farther than the lead arm on the way back or down.
Yep.
Maybe are they having sensations, Steve, of like getting the trail elbow closer, squeezing the elbows closer together to start with?
Yes.
Yeah.
They'd be squeezing them closer at the setup, top of the backswing, and downswing. And I would sometimes use an analogy as like a baseball player.
Yep.
You know, baseball players up at the plate, they'd be like kind of squeezing their arm. This is that sensation that they're getting, and that's getting the right elbow closer to their left elbow, and that's helping facilitate more wrist cock on the backswing and the downswing.
And just one more time, even though I know you said this right, like let's go down to P6 again.
Yep.
Just to really kind of explain what we're saying here. The basic concept is to get into an impact position where, let's do an impact, where the impact, the lead arm's in front of the club.
Yep.
We have shaft lean, etc. The distance that the elbows are apart, especially once we get down to here, the distance that the elbows are apart are going to affect the angles of the wrist conditions, right?
Right.
Which is going to affect where the shaft is at.
Correct.
And so even if we're at this point in time here and we get this arm farther, right away that changes where that shaft is at.
It makes the wrist unhinge.
And as we go the other way, that
keeps the wrist cock.
And so I think there's a lot of people who would watch their swing from face on and identify with nose shaft lean, identify with etc. And maybe they see their wrist conditions are throwing, but they don't identify that, hey, that trail arm and lead arm elbows are not in fact close enough together.
Right. And just to add one more little detail, at when the shaft's parallel to the ground, there should be like no space. See how my right arm to my side, there's no space?
Yep.
Where when we're filming, we'll see a big amount of space by the time the shaft's parallel to the ground. See how far apart the elbow is.
Yeah, I love that.
Compared to the good one.
And some of the common things, and we'll hit some that they'll see in the videos, if someone wants to practice this and they want sort of a feedback, right?
Yeah.
We can do the tour striker ball, bucket, some kind of object between the elbows
and
they're
keep it there the whole time.
Yeah.
Backswing, downswing, and just punch the ball with that in between your arms.
Beautiful. So good, love that. Elbows closer together, probably the starting point. Huge separator of handicap and ball striking abilities.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's one of the top, and the elbows being closer together, affecting the wrist conditions and the shaft. So hopefully, I think that's pretty simple and straightforward. Steve, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. If you liked the video, do us a favor, click that like button down below. Really helps us get our videos out to more people so we can keep making videos for you guys here for free. Click that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. If you do like these YouTube style videos, and this in particular, we're gonna put a recommended video on the screen here for another YouTube style video. If you would like more coaching, we'll put a card on the screen for CogornoGolf.com. Would love to see you there.